because the Spirit followed through. I usually do a meditation, and I say that I have with us this morning a standing room home crowd, and we've got a good crowd, don't we? This is good. Well, today we're going to celebrate the gifts of December, the special theme of December, which is the gift of spirits. And as I look over the audience, this is a no-brainer. Everything we have is a gift. The fact that I can breathe and stand up here and without limping too much is pretty cool. But today we're going to, and thanks to Dan Blodgett, our Dr. Dan, he gave me a book. It was from, and that's why I had to look at my notes because I couldn't remember Joe's last name, Joe Dispenza. And he wrote this book that you are the placebo, which is just perfect because today we want to look at what is the most magnificent gift that we have that we all enjoy. And we're going to bring Joe in because he's going to open the door and he's going to provide us with a couple instances that are kind of off the top in a way. It's unbelievable, unrealistic happenings that we'll use to open up this talk so that it will sunshine what your Angelo Pizelo is going to determine to be the most major gift that I can experience and you can experience. This gift is available to every one of us. We can use it to enhance our life experiences. We can use it to solve any problem that occurs. All the challenges that we face in this human drama, if we use this gift and put it in operation, we'll solve just about any problem we could possibly have. And so to start with, one of the stories, it's kind of interesting. In a place called Lebanon, Oregon. I've never been there. Anybody been to Lebanon, Oregon? Oh, good. So it does exist then. Thank you, Joseph. The author's name was Joseph Dispenza. But anyway, in April of 2013, something magnificent happened that kind of illogical and maybe unrealistic. And it was in April of 2013. The 16-year-old lady by the name of Hannah and her 14-year-old sister, Haley, did the impossible. They achieved the impossible. What they did was they lifted a 3,000-pound tractor up, helping their father, Jeff, who was trapped underneath the tractor. And they saved his life. And we might say, well, how is that possible? How is it possible that these two young ladies, and their children actually, 14 and 16, how is it possible that their combined weight of 250 pounds can actually even budge or lift a 3,000-pound tractor? How is that possible? And I think what I love about that is when we start looking at the gifts that we have, it helps us to get to that point where that we are here to experience the human drama and all the diversity of the human drama. And this story tells us that there's something within us that's much more powerful than any circumstance, that there's something within Angelo that overrides any circumstance or condition in the world. There are many stories and there are many, I would say, case histories that show this happening, that there is, at a moment of emergency, that there's an extreme amount of power and physical presence there that overrides even the laws of the physical laws, that overrides the limitations of law. And when we look at this thing, we start thinking about this, as I did, because if this is so, if we are able to bring in this dynamic power in the moment of emergency, is it possible for us to mitigate any circumstances that appear in our life? Can I mitigate diagnosis of health or cancer? Can I mitigate the idea of a relationship that's going south? Can I mitigate an economy? Can I mitigate the bitterness that we see throughout the universe sometimes? Can I do that? Do I have the power to do that? And if so, then how do we get there? How do we bring that into existence? Is it just on the spur of the moment? Does it have to be a certain situation that occurs? Well, I like to use the term, there are 10 words that I think are very powerful when we start talking about this. And the 10 words is, if it is to be, it's up to me. And what I love about the New Thought belief system is that we have within our abilities all the necessary tools and spiritual programs that can actually help us enjoy this visitation that we have with the human world. And what does it take? It takes an identity idea. We need to identify and lock into who are we? What are we identifying with? Am I identifying with my problems, with pain and suffering? Or am I identifying with my truth of my being? That I'm a powerful spiritual being occupying a body. That I can, through my thought process, because this story is kind of interesting, can these people actually, through a thought, through an intent, through a determination, pick up that 3,000-pound tractor? Is that a possibility? And if we are within ourselves this powerful spiritual being that overlays anything that can actually challenge the Newton law of physics, my gosh. Another story that he brought forward, it's kind of interesting. It happened several years ago. Am I talking too loud? If you all start moving to the back, I'll be. We have now 15 people at the door. Another story that really brought me to my senses on this idea of what is the most important thing, most important gift that we can have, has to do, it happened several years ago, and it really has a good influence on me because I'm going to use it as a metaphor a little bit today. And this 60-year-old man started getting real ill. And he was in Tennessee, living in a small community in Tennessee, and he got so sick that he stopped eating and he'd vomit anything that he'd take down, and he was losing weight. He lost over 50 pounds. This came from the book, by the way. Danny, you probably remember the story. I'm sorry I'm repeating it to you. But he started losing a lot of weight. He was literally dying. And for 4 months he went through this, and his wife was very concerned, and so she brings him after 4 months of this. He lost over 50 pounds. They take him to a doctor, to the hospital on the edge of town. It's a small hospital with only like 15 beds. And so Dr. Doherty started testing. She immediately thought, she said, maybe it's tuberculosis or maybe it's cancer. So she took him through all of the experiments and all the testing, and she came up to one realization. There's nothing physically wrong with Vander. His name was Vander. Nothing physically wrong with him. So she talked to his wife and she said, you know, we've done all the tests. There's nothing physically wrong with your husband. We don't know why he's dying. And so she said, I need to talk to you privately. So she took him aside and she said, I've got to swear you to secrecy, but we live in a community that believes in voodooism, that practices voodooism. And she said what happened was that he got, and she didn't use the word pissed off. I shouldn't use it either. But he ticked off. Yeah, I'm sorry. Too ministerial. But he ticked off the local priest, the local voodoo priest, who was the leader of the tribe there. And so the local voodoo priest said, we're going to put a hex on you, and you're going to die. And so since that time, he started going downhill. So the doctor said, well, I'm going to go talk to this guy. How do I reach him? And they showed him out. So Dr. Doherty goes over to the tribe and finds the priest, the voodoo priest, and it got kind of physical because the voodoo priest wasn't cooperating. And Dr. Doherty said, I've got to save a life. He said, you need. So it got physical, and finally the voodoo priest said exactly what he did. He said he waved a liquid in front of Vander's face, and then he rubbed a cream. He rubbed a cream over his hand, and then he told Vander this. He said, within the cream are these lizard eggs, and these lizard eggs are going to work their way to your stomach, and they're going to hatch. And one, yeah, I want to use this as a metaphor for our life, by the way. We all have our lizards, I can tell you that. But anyway, so one lizard's going to survive. It's a green lizard. It's going to start eating your stomach. It's going to eat you from the inside out. So, from that point on, Vander decided he was going to die. And he was dying. So the Dr. Doherty, he decided, hey, there's a way I can solve this problem. He said, got his nurse Martha, and I named her Martha. The story didn't. I thought Martha was a good name. Anyway, and there's nobody here named Martha, is there? Okay. So anyway, he calls Martha and he says, I've got an idea. I said, I'm going to see this large syringe. We're going to fill it with a drug that's going to induce vomiting. And he said, I have an idea how we're going to cure this guy before he dies. So she said, we're going to go see him, and what I want you to do is bring me, when I ask for it, bring me the syringe, and I'll handle the rest of it. So they go in, and the wife is there holding his hand, and he's retching and dying, and the doctor gets excited. He says, we've discovered it. I found the cure. I've got a powerful medicine here that will take care of your problem. And if that's okay with you, and of course he nodded. And so he said, nurse, would you give me the syringe? And she brought the syringe, and she had a basin with him too, a basin. And so he injected the powerful drug, and he started vomiting. And he was vomiting and vomiting and you know, putting his head up in the basin. And so finally, after a period of time, are you getting sick yet? Because people say, Angelo, when you talk, I get sick of you talking. But anyway, he started vomiting. So Vender, without anybody seeing him, she reaches in his pocket and takes out this dead green lizard. He slips it into the basin. And then he says, let me check what's on it. Oh my gosh, he says, really excited. He says, look what came out of your mouth, my gosh, this green lizard. And so the wife was shocked, and Vanders was shocked, and he almost passed out, and he went to sleep for 12 hours. Wow. When he woke up, he was hungry, he started gaining weight, he was healed, he was cured. Tell me what that's all about. Tell me what this is all about. What is it about? We have the capability within ourselves to determine whether we're going to be happy or not, whether we're going to live or die, whether we're going to be the strong people that we are. We are a life form of divine, whether we believe it or not. There's hundreds of these type of stories out there and that tell us. And if we decide, all of us have our green lizards, don't we? I don't care what it is. It could be a diagnosis. And you go to a doctor, and the doctor says, hey, you know, what you've got is incurable, and you have 4 months to live or whatever. We've had lots of people come forward telling us their story. And you know, sometimes a diagnosis is a bigger killer than the disease itself. And I don't know if you doctors out there would agree with that, but no one's nodding, so I think we're all right. But the thing is that we have this power, this presence to determine. So this leads me to what I think the most important, the most major gift that every one of us have. And we have it every moment of the day. It's with us. It doesn't cost anything either, by the way. It's good. And we can use it to mitigate any situation in our life. And that present, that gift that we have is what? It's the power to create our life experience through intention and expectation. There it is, Stephen, expectation. And there's a famous doctor, his name was Eric Butterworth. It's kind of interesting. He shocked most of us in Newfoundland when he said this. He said, you know, you can want something, but you'll never get it. You may even pray for something and you won't expect it, you won't get it. You may even have faith in something and you won't receive it. And we've, what's this guy talking about? Has he lost it? But you will receive it if you always expect it. And what is the downside in all this? The downside is we hear false beliefs. A false belief, if we embrace it and we bring it into our